Oh boy, back to work. Weekend's over. I think we're the only people on the planet that look forward to Monday morning, right? How about a thumbs up for that here in the video? Anyways, welcome back, guys. Hope you had a fantastic weekend break, but it's time to get back to work tonight. Tuesday is right around the corner. Got some money to make on Tuesday. It is Monday evening. It's the 4th day of April, 2022. My name is Joseph, and as always, welcome back to your nightly newsletter. Now, if you're watching for the first time tonight, it's great to have you with me. My job tonight is to help us find the best trades setting up for tomorrow. That's Tuesday's trading session. I got a great video in store for you guys and gals tonight. Charts are already in the background, as you can see. We got the oil, we got the Nasdaq, we got the S&P on our radar, locked and loaded for Tuesday. Boy, where do we begin? Got a bunch of big moves on the charts today. A big move today always gets me excited for some big opportunities, some big trades coming tomorrow. I'm going to cover all my favorite trades in tonight's video. That way you have a good roadmap to make some money tomorrow. And you know me, I'm going to also make sure we cover some of the traps, some of the curveballs, some of the mental mistakes to avoid tomorrow. That way you can finish yourself off in the green tomorrow, whether you're trading on your own or whether you're trading with us tomorrow morning in our trade room. Got a lot we're going to cover tonight in this video. I am a bit behind schedule, as you can see, so I appreciate you tuning in and staying patient on the upload here tonight. Before we jump in and get the party going tonight, get into these charts, into these trades for tomorrow, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. I publish all the good stuff right on this newsletter every evening. I don't want you to miss tomorrow night's video, so make sure you subscribe, hit that little bell icon, make sure you set your notifications, because all this stuff is very time sensitive, right? So make sure you subscribe, and don't forget, if you have any questions for me, any questions at all, drop those questions in the comment section. Don't be shy. I do personally answer all the questions in the comment section, so drop those questions in if you got them. And guys, if you enjoy this video every evening, if you tune in every evening to watch, to get your mind right and those charts right for tomorrow, hit that like button for me. I appreciate you guys tuning in, carving out some time, and spending with me here every evening on this YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe, hit that like button though, and let's get this party going. Tuesday is right around the corner. This ain't going to trade itself. Where's the easy money for Tuesday? Well, boy, oh boy, everything is bullish right now. Boy, that quickly changed. We finished up last week with a pretty bearish market last week, but boy, oh boy, everything really pumping higher. Bulls, of course, have control on the S&P. Bulls have control here on the Nasdaq. And of course, bulls have control here on the crude oil. Now, you'll notice right away that, buyers obviously have control here. So we'd love to buy some pullbacks pretty much across all three of these markets. But you'll notice we've got, major resistance here on the S&P, major resistance there on the Nasdaq, major resistance on the crude oil. So, I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't hoping for a nice reversal off of these highs here tomorrow as well. So I definitely have both long side trades, short side trades, and everything in between. We're going to cover all my favorite trades setting up for tomorrow's session. We'll go into deeper detail here in this video tonight. Before we jump in though, speaking of tomorrow's trading session, let's just take a look here at the economic news calendar here for tomorrow and the rest of the week. It is technically the second week of the month. We did technically start the month last Friday on April Fool's Day. April 1st was last Friday's non-farm Friday. So technically this is the second week of the month, which usually means you're not going to see a lot of major news on the schedule here this week. We really don't see a lot, as you can see here. There's a lot here on the schedule. So really, for as far as tomorrow's news event goes, they're really the biggest news report tomorrow is that ISM Services Index at 10 o'clock Eastern Time. We talked about this last week, if you recall. Anytime you see those three letters, ISM, you want to pay attention. Those are definitely going to be potentially market-moving news events, and we have one tomorrow at 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Now, also, too, remember, we are seeing a lot of back and forth right now from the Fed. The Fed has been kind of put in a position right now where inflation is really skyrocketing. We've all felt that pretty much everywhere in our lives, and they pretty much have commented on raising rates. And so we know one thing we're definitely watching tomorrow and the rest of the week are all the Fed speakers. The Fed speakers are probably going to be the biggest potential market movers here this week, just because there really isn't a lot of other news here. For example, we got Kashkari tomorrow right on top of that ISM Services Index number. I'll tell you, if you could only be at your desk for an hour tomorrow, that kind of 9:45 to 10:45 block tomorrow, probably going to be a pretty good time to be trading with us tomorrow in our trade room. We've got Brainerd later on in the morning. We got Williams at 2 o'clock. We've got Harker on Wednesday. We got Ballard and Evans on Thursday. So keep your eyes on these Fed speakers. They're going to most likely be the biggest catalyst for these markets. Of course, the FOMC minutes will be on Wednesday. Get some jobs on Thursday. But again, for tomorrow though, big news of the day, 10 o'clock Eastern time. Kashkari right on top of that as well. So if I had to guess tomorrow, I would imagine 10 o'clock shock, as we call it, will be a very good time to be trading tomorrow. So we'll definitely be keeping our eyes and ears. We're still kind of dealing with a situation right now happening in Ukraine. That still, of course, dominates the headlines. The Fed, will they raise rates? How will inflation be dealt with this week? We're still dealing with those same kind of known unknowns. Nothing has changed from last week. Will we hear any new developments in Ukraine? Will any of these Fed speakers, stick their foot in their mouth and say something they regret, or tip off the markets of how they're going to be dealing with inflation? These are things we're watching here tomorrow morning in our trade room, with a very big focus on that 10 o'clock ISM Services Index. Now, we'll come back tomorrow night and we'll talk about Wednesday's news and Thursday's news. So we're just getting this week warmed up here on the video newsletter. So now you know kind of what the lay of the land looks like for tomorrow. Don't forget to set that alarm clock for just before 10 o'clock Eastern time, as we have that big news tomorrow. Back to our charts though. Now, each of these markets is bullish. You notice again, each of these is bullish. Now, whether you trade one of these markets, or you're like us in our trading, we trade all three of them. Whether you trade one of them, whether you trade all of them, you're going to learn something new. They'll be profitable. There'll be money-making little tidbits throughout the entire video here tonight. I'll provide different variations, different setups as we go through each of these charts. And I do try to save the best stuff for last. So I'll definitely reward you for watching this video all the way to the end. So even though all of these markets are bullish right now, I will be talking about different variations, different money-making opportunities throughout the entire video. So make sure you watch the entire way through. Let's grab the S&P. Let's get it going. Each of these markets are bullish, but I'll tell you, they all have something very different with them. And you'll see why. You'll see what I'm talking about here. For example, what's the most important thing happening right now on the S&P? Again, we're definitely bullish, right? We're definitely bullish, but you'll notice we're running right into what you really could call three major areas of resistance. For example, one of them is this wedge. Now, wedges are really, really cool. They're not the easiest to trade. As you probably saw today was a pretty kind of a low volume, kind of grindy market. It wasn't the easiest thing to find setups in the S&P today, but you'll notice how this wedge works. Right where those two trend lines come together becomes this, what is oftentimes a brick wall of resistance. And so again, we're definitely bullish, but there's one area of resistance we have overhead. Another one would be the measured moves. We began the morning inside of a range. And so we have one leg. Breakout leg is the measuring leg. Two legs, three legs. We are, for the most part, 3 legs higher. Now, if you take my video classes here at School of Trade, you know how much we like to use 3-legged moves. Trends love to move in threes. There's a second big area of resistance. And then let's not forget where we are, right? We are right into, now if you recall from last week we talked about how this area right here, this is kind of a prior low, right? This whole area right here, we talked about last week when the market was free falling. We talked about how just amazing it would be to get a short off that area. And of course, we never got it, right? We never got it. So now, obviously, again, we're pretty bullish right now, but look at this area we're in. This is where the bears really over the past couple of days would have loved to have been able to get short at. Now, again, obviously it's a very bull market right now, but again, we got some issues here. The buyers have control. They definitely do. But do we really want to be buying aggressively here into all of these red flag areas? Probably not, right? Probably not. So what do buyers want to do right now? Buyers would love to get a nice deep pullback. Give us a chance here to buy low. Give us a chance to, get a little small risk, big reward on it. Buy a pullback. We never really had any pullbacks today. They were very shallow pullbacks. I would also imagine too, buyers would like to buy a breakout. Got that big round number overhead. Those round numbers have been very sticky lately because there really isn't anything else to kind of latch onto. Above that, we've got some key levels waiting above. So, buyers, I'll tell you, I would have no problem buying a pullback here or buying a breakout, going higher. I have a couple of different breakouts we'll talk about in this video tonight. So buyers definitely have options here, but again, not easy to want to be a buyer right now. How about a seller? Boy, I'll tell you, the sellers have a lot of potential here right now. They obviously are going against the trend, but because we're at a major turning point right now, you can start looking for shorts. Now, as far as a short setup goes, I can see a lot of reversals right off the high. I would love to get like a crown reversal off the high or a double top reversal off that high. Or I've got a couple different reversal patterns that we'll talk about as we go lower. So I definitely would not be afraid of the sell side right now. But again, because we are so bullish, we've just got to be careful. All right, so let's talk about the buy side. We'll talk about the sell side. Let's talk about the pullback here first. And again, you're going to see a lot of similarities to the Nasdaq, but you'll see in a moment why the S&P and Nasdaq are very, very different and why it's so important, especially on breakouts. Okay, so the first things first is I'd like to see a nice deep pullback here on the S&P. Ideally getting down around this 45, 60 area, we'll call it. Now, deep pullbacks are great, but whenever we see a deep pullback, you have to really anticipate to let the bears in this case, you want to let them try twice here. So 1, 2, and then once those bears get short twice, what you want to do here is you want to kind of think, okay, the aggressive bears will get in. They can't keep their fingers off the buttons. The more patient traders will come in. Think about where there may be a channel coming down overhead. I want to get the bears trying twice down here. Once they try twice, then I know exactly where their stops are, and I can literally use those stop losses to fuel what we call a failure pattern, right? Back up to retest those highs. Now, there's one more kind of add-on trade for this, and that is whenever we use a two-try failure on a deep pullback, oftentimes the price will jump right back up again, shallow pullback, and you'll get a little trap entry right before you get back up to retest the high. Remember, it's a very bull market, so the buyers just want to go back up and retest the high. Let's see a deep pullback. Let's try to rope in those bears, what we call a two-try failure, and then let's grab that trap setup as it before obviously it gets back up to retest those highs. Now, guys, I know a lot of you have already taken the free trading course. Okay, you've learned all the rules for things like two-try failure patterns and trap patterns. But I'll tell you right now, I know a lot of you guys have already grabbed that course. If you're one of the few folks, if you're new here for the first time right now, if you haven't taken the free trading course to learn the setups, to learn the rules, when to take them, when to skip them, what I'll do is I'll put a little pop-up here for you. Pause the video, grab that little link that popped up there. If you haven't taken the free trading class yet, that will teach you all about our 4 entry patterns, how to find the right levels to use them. I'll tell you, if you're sick and tired of missing the best trade of the day, or you're taking too many losses, you'll love that roadmap I paint in that free trading course. It's a great roadmap for anyone who wants to earn income in these markets. You'll also see a lot of examples of how we apply, right? So next time I say deep pullback with that two-try failure and that trap entry getting back in, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when you grab that free trading course linked up there. Okay, so now we've got that. Now, as we pull back, at what point can I sell this market? All right, at what point can I sell it? Here are two ways I'll be waiting for a reversal. Are you ready? First one would be a drop down right into the buy zone, but now instead of the bears failing to hold, now the bears hold it and they jump off that moving average. Okay, we call these 1, 2, 3 reversals, right? One is that strong pullback. The strong pullback isn't enough. It has to actually hold that pullback to the moving average. 1, 2, and jump. Once they jump off the moving average, then we know we have a very strong bear trend now. Where do we think the bears want to go? The bears want to go back into that range because ranges act like magnets. And so once we get that 1, 2, 3 reversal, now I can mark up that low, I can mark up that high, and my favorite entry is always what we call a first test trap. First test trap. That is the first test of the high of that channel, and a trap entry. And again, I know most of you guys and gals have already learned these traps already, but if you haven't learned these traps yet, if you haven't learned about these 1, 2, 3 reversals, again, that link is there for you in the upper right-hand corner. Now remember, you can really fine-tune these targets by looking at the first leg and the last leg. The first leg is usually the measuring leg, right? Last leg is the one that you can use to find the target. Make sense? All right, that's one way to trade a reversal. I have a couple different reversals I want to talk about. All right, in fact, I've got one more reversal pattern I think is perfect for the Nasdaq. All right, so make sure you keep on watching on that because this is definitely not the only trick we have up our sleeve here for tomorrow. Now, here's one more thing too. What if we got that deep pullback? What if the bears try twice, we end up back up to retest the high now? Now what do? Can I sell off the high? Absolutely, we can sell off this high. So if I go right, we get the pullback, we retest that high right now. Now it's kind of mission accomplished. You know what I mean? We get a strong run up. The buyers got what they want. They buy the dip, and now they take their profit back at the high. Mission accomplished. One of my favorite reversal patterns off the high is what we call a basically a two-try reversal. We wait now for these buyers to try once, try twice, and then pay attention here, guys. The stop losses, where are stops? Stops are right below that low. Think about where their stops are. And again, the reason why I want to let the buyers try twice at a major level of resistance is because we're so bullish. I can't just aggressively sell just because I'm at resistance. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Not in this game. So 1 try, 2 try for the buyers, right? Then we know, okay, there's the stops. There's the pain for those buyers. Why would we be buying right into those highs, right? Those are the weak hands. Those are the small money traders. Those are the inexperienced traders. They're going to use a tight stop. They're not going to have the ability to defend themselves, and we can use this failure pattern going lower. Now, one of my favorite follow-up trades, so this is what I want to pay attention to is, and again, that failure. One of my favorite follow-up trades is to find a new channel here, and then again, repeat after me, first test is the best test. You want that first test off of that high, right? Makes sense? So again, we pull back, we go up, we take out that high now. Buyers now come in. Buyers say, keep on buying it. No, wrong spot to buy. Buy once. They buy twice. Find their stops. Wait for that nice signal candle. We're selling into those stops as we go. I'm going to flip it over, right? I'm going to flip it, find that new channel. And then again, think about those traps. I always say traps are my favorite. They're really powerful. This could be a trap, could be a failure, could be a pullback combo. 2-try failure into that first test off the high of that channel. And again, we'll talk a lot about the actual entry signals, the traps, the failure patterns, the pullback combos. We'll talk about that in that free course link I popped before. All right. Now, I'm going to talk about a crown reversal on the Nasdaq. Okay, we'll talk about one more reversal pattern here on the Nasdaq. So make sure you keep on watching here. Now, how about a breakout going higher? Okay, how do we try to break out going higher? And this is one very big difference between the S&P and the Nasdaq. Okay, you're going to see in a moment the Nasdaq is not going to be easy for a breakout. The S&P is, because if we can crack above this 81 3/4, we have all this wide open space now. This is something the Nasdaq does not have that option, and so you're going to see in a moment here that some of these breakouts will work well on the S&P, but they may not work well on the Nasdaq. Let me get rid of this wedge here for a second. What are a couple breakout patterns we can use? Okay, let's talk about one of the easiest ones. One of the easiest ones is a 1 2 3 breakout. So we break out, we pull back to the moving average, and we hold the pullback and we jump. This is very similar to that 1 2 3 reversal pattern we talked about earlier. We mark off that high, we mark off that low, we drill down to our faster time frame, we find our traps below prior swings. We find our failure patterns off the moving average, and we use those pullback combinations for another leg higher. Remember, the first leg and the third leg are oftentimes equal. They're oftentimes symmetrical. So try to use that first leg and then take the size of that first leg and pin it right at that big pullback, and that will give you an idea of how far that trade will likely want to go for you. That is one of my favorite breakouts. Here's another one too that could easily happen here. Might not be as realistic though on the Nasdaq. Will be a pop and grind, right? Pop and grind. So we pop up. Now, instead of getting that pullback and that jump, now we pop up and we grind, right? We don't get a very good pullback here. These are always kind of tricky. What you want to do is you want to draw a trend line off those highs, and you want to find that channel off of that low. Okay, the key to this is draw that trend line relatively tight off those highs, and then think about where that prior swings will be. Get underneath the moving average, trap in all those bears who are trying to sell short, grab those failures, those pullback combos. Again, first leg, third leg. Okay, so those are two really easy breakout patterns there that we can use. I'm going to go over one more, well, a few more tonight, but one specifically that I think is better on the Nasdaq, right? Because these two patterns may not work very well on the NQ. And then also, too, don't forget, we may also turn sideways into a range. You know, sometimes the market goes lower, sometimes it goes higher, and sometimes it goes sideways. Why don't we talk about that on the Nasdaq? Okay, because the Nasdaq has a little more likelihood of going sideways here. But we got a pretty good plan of attack there on the S&P. Let's grab the Nasdaq, and you'll see what I'm talking about. You'll see why I say it. They're very similar. They're bullish, but they're not. They're very far off here as far as being identical markets right now. Okay. What's happening right now on the Nasdaq? Well, first of all, we have a very big move today on the Nasdaq. Anytime we have a big move in one day, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, we see either a trading range, a sideways range, right? Because nobody dares sell into this thing. It's too bullish, but nobody dares to buy it because it's so high up. So oftentimes the market will go sideways whenever we see a big move in one day. Another very common trait of a big one-day move is a really deep pullback. Now, why would we want a deep pullback right now? Well, because, besides this guy right here, later on, late this afternoon, we really didn't get much of a pullback at all today. And I'm sure a little bit of this was fueled by the speculation. If you probably saw the headlines, Elon Musk made some headlines this morning by, I think he has 9% stake in Twitter. He had floated the idea over the weekend that, that kind of made people speculate that he might be starting his own Twitter, or he might be potentially one day, right, taking over Twitter. Who knows, right? Who knows? But that you could definitely tell that was probably one of the bigger reasons why a Nasdaq took off like a rocket ship here today. Not so much because of Tesla, right, but because of his comments about Twitter and his acquisition of, well, he's the biggest shareholder now of Twitter from what I read in the news headlines today. So big move today says look for a range tomorrow, or again, a really deep pullback. Second big thing on this chart right now, which I think is probably the most important clue, is this spike in channel. Spike in channels are notorious. They are spike up into a channel going higher here. What you want to remember about spike in channels is that, well, they're usually very aggressive trends. They don't really give much of a deep pullback. And so we oftentimes will see the market pull all the way back into the base of that channel. Now, obviously, this gives the buyers, right? The buyers would love to buy that nice deep pullback. It also gives the sellers some options here to sell it on the way down. In fact, I think that's one of the cool parts about this Nasdaq that doesn't exist on the S&P right now. So that spike in channel pattern is a pretty big clue, So as you would imagine, then of course you can see here these measured moves 1, 2, and 3 legs higher. As I mentioned before, the trends love to go 3 legs. They do. So what do the buyers want to do? Yeah, the buyers want to buy a pullback. The buyers want to buy a pullback. The buyers want to buy a pullback. There are 2 spots here where I would think these buyers will be looking to get in. At the same time here, where do we think these buyers want to go? Well, remember the S&P had already kind of retested some major highs. And well, the S&P kind of came into what is equivalent to this area on the Nasdaq. If you recall, the S&P was kind of right up into that area, right? So the Nasdaq, you can see, went a hell of a lot further than the Nasdaq went a lot further than the S&P. Where do we think the Nasdaq wants to go next? Their big objective has to be up around these big highs. This is a major top. It's not the all-time high, but it's a major high in what has been a bear market, as you can see here, over the last couple of days. This, in my opinion, is one of the big differences between the S&P and the Nasdaq, because on the S&P has plenty of space to run if it can get a breakout. The Nasdaq doesn't. The Nasdaq has a very small little window there, which means there's one very specific entry setup we can look for as we're going higher. So buyers can be looking for trades on the breakouts going higher, but got to be careful. Got to be careful up there. How about the bears here? What would the bears like to get? The bears would love to get a reversal off the high. The bears would love to sell this thing down into that buy zone and then literally get the buyers involved and buy it right back up again. So the bears would love to get some of these reversals off the high, get some shorts if they can get this momentum going lower. Again, very bull market right now. There is definitely no doubt about that. So a lot of this will be relatively similar here, right? If I can get a relatively deep pullback here for these buyers, that is exactly where you start thinking about, okay, there's a nested or 2-try failure. This is almost identical we talk about on the S&P, right? It's a bull market, but the deep pullback says let those bears try a couple times. Right? Let them try a couple times. Let them dig their heels in. Let's figure out where those stops are, and let's buy right into those stop losses with, again, what I call it, in this case, a 2-try failure. Now, again, those deep pullbacks oftentimes will snap running higher. And as it snaps running higher, I would love to get that first pullback and buy what we call a failure into pullback combination. Those are very common in most situations. But if we can get that really deep pullback right now on this, I would love to see this thing snap back, and oftentimes it'll kind of shallow pull back and go. Again, we'd love to see that deeper pullback, get right off that moving average. If it doesn't, though, there's that trap entry we can use from there. So again, same thing, right? Same thing as the S&P, right? Same thing here as the S&P. Get that nice deep pullback, trap in those bears with that 2-try failure, and then grab that. Again, grab a trap. Ideally, it'd be great to get that pullback off the moving average. But again, when it pulls back that deep, we just don't get that very often. How would I short this thing as it goes lower? Well, this is exactly where a crown reversal can come into play. Okay, and this is where we have, I think, a little more opportunity for the bears right now than we do on the S&P. For example, if I can get the buyers here trying once, trying twice, and get that trap off the high, that will be a crown reversal. I think it'd be great here to get the buyers trying to keep it going a couple times, grab that crown reversal, and then once we end up back down into that zone again, buyers, right, bears once, bears twice, and trade both sides of it. I think that's a great strategy for tomorrow. Look for some exhaustion up around these highs. Remember, we are not in the business of picking tops, though, right? We do want to make sure buyers try at least twice. And what I always do is I always like to find that trap for that short. Okay, now we've talked about this quite a few different times over the last few weeks, but here's kind of a breakdown of it. If I, for example, let's say, for example, we don't get that crown reversal. Let's say it pulls back. Let's say now, of course, the buyers want to go back to retest the high. The bears tried once, the bears tried twice, and we end up going right back to retest the high now. Think of this as mission accomplished. Now I can be a lot more aggressive with my short. Now I don't need that crown reversal. I can just use that one try, that two try failure. And then again, don't forget, the bears want to go back and take out that big low down there. So I can get them to drop off that high. This is exactly where you trade the turn off of those highs. Okay, we talked about this briefly on the S&P before, but again, think about that deep pullback, grab that seller failure pattern, take that profit off at the high, big strong run up, the buyers want to retest, they get their mission accomplished. Now the buyers try once, the buyers try twice. I don't need that trap high. I can use a trend line. I can use stops to get run. I can sell that two try failure off the high. And then again, I can grab that first test because again, the first test is the best test. You know what I mean? As we said earlier, off the high of that channel, target's pretty easy, right? Targets want to go back down to retest those lows. I also think if we get lucky here, if we get really lucky on this, we may get, we talked about that pop and grind on the S&P. I think another really, a potential good trade short here right now would be, let's say for example, we drop and we start to grind down here. We know that whenever we see a grind like this, we can draw that channel relatively tight. And we can look for that. In this case, it'll be kind of a scalp right off that high there. I like that trade a lot as well. Again, we anticipate the deep pullback. So if this thing starts to grind down here, if it starts to pull back and grind down, just draw that trend line right down that low, right? And then again, think about that big top up there, find that channel. And the way I'm drawing it, I'm drawing as a trap right now. It does not need to be a trap. It could be just a pullback above the moving average, get those buyers to come in and try to buy it again and just simply hit them right into those stop losses for that next leg lower. You know what I mean? We know where the market wants to get to at that point. So again, maybe it's a trap, maybe it's a failure. I won't know until we see it tomorrow, right? But that's what I'm looking for here as this thing goes lower here, right? So buyers want to buy that deep pullback. What if it goes higher? What if it goes higher here? What if we don't slow down? What if we don't pull back? What's the goal there? Well, obviously, if the price keeps on pulling back like this, and we can get that deep pullback, it's the same idea. So nothing really changes if we keep on grinding higher with this spike in channel. What I want you to think about though is we only have a little bit of space left over. So again, if the market wants to keep on kind of rotating and going higher here, I'm going to pretty much do the exact same thing. Wait for that deep pullback, trap in those bears, and try to go back up to retest the high. Then again, you've got that 1-2 short off the high, right? Play both sides of this. What if we jump though? What if the market jumps up as we go? Here's a setup I always love. Strong move up, shallow pullback, higher high in price, traps, baby, right? The trap is going to be and this is pretty much the only setup that we have going higher for a bull breakout, because I'm not going to trade a 1-2-3 breakout. I'm not going to buy right into that high up there. So we talked about a couple breakouts that work better on the S&P, the 1-2-3 breakout, the pop and grind breakout. This one will really be either it's going to keep on grinding and then pull back for us and give us that chance to buy, can execute the game plan we just talked about. Or as we go up, let's say we do get a couple nice big green candles here, strong run up already, shallow pullback to the moving average, higher high in price. That trap entry is kind of the last resort before we head back up into that, into that major top that we talked before. All right. Now, this may also go sideways here. We may also turn into a range up here. The oil will be a perfect spot for us to talk about a trading range. And again, be careful with the breakouts right now on the Nasdaq. I want to buy the pullback right now, a deep pullback, and I definitely think there are ways for us to short this thing off the high. Let's keep going. Let's wrap it up here right now. Let's wrap it up right now with some oil. Right, because we get a pretty similar plan there on the S&P and the Nasdaq. Trying to buy that nice deep pullback. I would love to get. Oh, and by the way here, same thing goes, right? Same thing goes here for the Nasdaq, right? So if we take off the downside here, let's say for example, this market ends up down inside this buy zone. The bears come in, they hold that pullback, and we jump off that. Same thing, right? Same thing. 1, 2, 3 reversal. Again, I think there'll be some money to make if the market rolls lower. I think there's money to make on that trap up there. I think there'll be some money to make there. But if they do end up in this area here, though, can you keep your eyes on that jump going lower and keep on finding those new channels, because where they want to go, right? They want to go back down where they came from, that 52 level down there at those lows. All right, so keep it on your radar for tomorrow. That same kind of 1, 2, 3 reversal pattern we talked about on the S&P will also apply here to the Nasdaq. So I almost forgot about that here on the NQ. All right, how about some crude oil? And you know what? I'm gonna say congratulations. If you're still watching this video right now, that tells me that you're committed. And I'll tell you right now, if you're this committed to watching, 35, 36 minutes into a YouTube video where most people click off already, you are exactly the person that I do these videos for. So congratulations, or I commend you, right? Definitely very proud of you for putting the time in and putting the effort in, because one thing about trading is there's no magic indicator that does it all for us. Everyone's looking for shortcuts when it comes to trading. You got to learn the strategy, learn how the markets work. And so if you're that committed, I'm really excited to work with you in our trade room. I'll tell you, if you're still watching this video right now, you got to find a way to come out and join us in our trade room, because you're going to love that trade room. You'll do pretty well with us in the trade room. All right, back to our charts here though. Over on the crude oil. What's the most important thing in the oil right now? We are bullish into a trading range. That's the most important thing right now. We're bullish into a range. Okay, very, very important. Now, for the most part, there are 3 different ways in which you can make money in a bull market into a trading range. You can buy the pullback below the range, and you can see I kind of marked up that channel as kind of a way of illustrating it. Okay, that channel is really not the most important factor on this. So again, it's a bull market into a trading range. One way to make money in a bull market range is to wait for a pullback, get down into a support zone, and then classic, right? In this classic, rope in those bears, get those bears to get short. This is not a very deep pullback, so you don't need a 2-try. You know what I mean? If it was a really deep pullback, then you go, okay, 1, 2, and then back up, like we just talked about on the S&P and the Nasdaq. This is not a very deep pullback. It's inside the buy zone. Okay, so what we could do is look for those bears to come in, let them get short, and then simply buy right into those stop loss. That's one way to do it. Another way to make money in a bull range is to then, as the market now goes higher, is to find a new channel. So again, you pull back, the bears try to sell it. We're buying right into those stop losses for that failure pattern going higher. And then we find that new channel, again, like always, by drawing off those highs, bring it down to that low. And as we always say, if you recall, the first test is the best test. Now, obviously, we didn't get that today. That's pretty clear. They didn't get that. But that is your second way to make money in a bull market into a trading range. The first one is buying that failure. That's the one that's the most probable. It is the most common. And then the next one is we trade the turn. So we trade off that channel as it rotates back higher. Then you have the third one. And the third one is the breakout. Now, remember, the size of the pullback below the range is oftentimes equal to the size of the breakout going higher. And so you can see where we are right now. So we're right at that breakout. And then, of course, there are 4 different types of breakout patterns that I can use. We've already talked about 3 of them here tonight. We'll talk about one more here on the oil. Now, think about where we are. We're right up inside another, maybe not major top, but you can definitely tell there was a range here from last week. And so this is a major area of resistance. So the buyers certainly have control of this, but a lot like the other markets, it's not a really friendly area to be a buyer right now. We're running out of space at that pendulum swing. You know, you can easily argue we're at a major top here or a major level of resistance. Now, a lot like the S&P and different than the Nasdaq, if we can break through this area, we have plenty of space to go higher. So I can easily think that either let me clean this thing up here real quickly here. You know, I could easily see how a 1, 2, 3 breakout could work, right? 1, 2, 3 going higher. They pull back to the moving average. They jump off the moving average. We mark off that new high, mark off that new low. We drill down to our faster time frame and we grab that first test, that trap, that failure, that pullback combination, right? We know kind of where the market wants to go next. And I could look for that buy off the low of that channel. Or maybe it's a pop and a grind. A pop and a grind. We pop up, we mark our new high, we find that big channel low down there. We look left, find some prior swings, try to get underneath some prior swings. Ideally, at the very least, get underneath the moving average, failure, trap, pullback combo from there. Or maybe we see that 2 try breakout. We just talked about on the S&P or on the Nasdaq, right? Maybe it pops up, big strong pop up. Okay, you know, something like this, you know, real big pop up. Anytime we see a big pop, right? Big pop up, shallow pullback, higher high in price. What do we always say? Traps, baby. That's right. Strong move up, shallow pullback, trap is the money trade. Right? Strong move up gets the momentum going. The shallow pullback drives all the fib traders crazy, right? They can't get in on that. And the higher high confirms the move. Anytime we see a strong move, shallow pullback, higher high, that trap is a money trade. And then what would be one more? What's one more breakout pattern we could look for? Well, think about this area not as resistance, but as support. You know, this whole area right here, and this is one very big difference than the S&P and the Nasdaq, this whole area really can turn into support. So what do you think? Is it possible maybe we go up, we get a pull back and go? Yes, breakout pullback. A breakout pullback is definitely on my radar here as we go. You know, maybe instead of a pop up, a shallow pullback and go, maybe instead we pop up, but then we see this really sharp pullback right into this. But again, right, what will soon become a support zone. At that point, if we see a strong move up and the market now goes right underneath that moving average, right? It's definitely not a 2 try trap. Okay, it's definitely not a 1, 2, 3 breakout, but we obviously have a lot of momentum. Anytime we have a strong move in one direction, we know the odds are pretty good they're going to retest the high. So don't be foolish and try shorten that thing because of that sharp pullback. Trap in those bears, just like on this one, right? Trap in those bears and use that failure pattern to snap it right back up to retest the high. That's always a pretty easy money trade. Strong move, but now really deep pullback right away. Again, we're going to use these prior resistance zones as an area of support. Okay. By the way, this breakout pullback could also work on the S&P. Okay. Probably not going to be a very good fit for the Nasdaq though, because again, the Nasdaq doesn't have that open space above us. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. That's how we're trading it as it goes higher here. All right, can I sell off the high right now? Absolutely we can. There are 2 ways to sell off the high. One is the crown reversal. We have the 1 try for the buyers, the 2 try for the buyers. Okay, get that little trap above that high. Once we do, back down into that trading range. Now remember, when you get these reversals going lower after they complete their objective, now find that new channel and look for that first test. Okay, these are usually good for at least a scalp. They may not go forever. They may not be huge winners, but these are a great follow-up trade. So a little crown reversal off the high, right? And then again, into that first test is the best test, going back down to where? To the other side of that trading range. And maybe it may end up turning into a big slingshot all the way back down, basically into that range where we ended the week last week. So as we go higher, get those, right? We get those shorts as we go. Now here's something else we can think about too. What if we end up all the way back at that low? Can I buy down there? Absolutely we can. Now you want to keep in mind there's going to be some trend lines coming down here. Okay, there'll be a little trend line here. I didn't put it on there, just going to keep things simple. But don't be surprised here if we end up rolling over, taking out that low, sitting here on this, trend line here, pendulum up, pendulum down, right? And then of course, again, because it's so bearish, just like we talked about on the others, bears try once, bears try twice, run those stops. And then because we're so bullish overall in this trend right now, we've got the definite trade the turn, find that new channel, and then grab that first pullback. Yeah, that's a great follow-up trade. Again, sometimes we get them, sometimes we don't. On this one, didn't get it. Sometimes you'll get that pullback and you'll get that turn, but you won't get the actual pullback. So hopefully we'll get that pullback to get some follow-up there on that deep pullback. Remember though, this is a shallow pullback right here. Okay? When we come way off the highs like this and it really rolls over like that, this is exactly where, remember, this pullback right here is not the same context as this pullback will be over here. Why? Because we're coming off above that trading range. We call it rotation off the high. It's the same reason why, again, we want to be patient on the S&P and the Nasdaq for these deep pullbacks. All right, hopefully that makes sense there. All right, guys. So I think we've covered a lot of it here right now. Don't be surprised here if we pop up, get around 105 and go sideways. Remember, if we go sideways here, and this goes for all these markets, wait for that pullback, trap in those bears with that failure, trade that first test is the best test, right? Grab that failure, grab that first test, mark up your pendulum swing, and then look for one of those 4 breakout patterns. We've talked about all of them here tonight so far, going higher. And then where do we think the market wants to go from there? Yep, up to that 108.67, right? 108.50 area, give or take a couple ticks there as we go. All right, guys, boy, we have covered a lot in this video tonight. The game plan's ready. Learning this is pretty fun. It's pretty easy, but make no mistake, the hard part is tomorrow, right? The hard part tomorrow is getting to our desks, updating our charts, and then trading the plan. Planning the trades is the fun part. Planning everything out ahead of time is kind of the easy part. Okay, because we're sitting here, comfortable chair, ready to go. Tomorrow, though, opening bell rings, that's much more difficult. And this is exactly why our trade room is such a great shortcut. It's such a great resource. Anybody can learn this stuff. The hard part is going out and doing it without making mental mistakes, without forcing bad trades. And so if you're still watching right now, I would do whatever you can to get access to our trade room, get registered as a member. If you're this committed to watching this video right now, you'll do very well with us in our trade room. I'm going to put all the membership links here, all the free course links. I'll put everything we've talked about tonight right in the description of the video. If you're on the website right now, there'll be a big button right below this video on the website. Please don't be afraid to call the office. I know I speak pretty quickly on this video. I got to kind of get it all done under an hour on this YouTube channel every evening, but we can slow it way down. So call the office. We'll slow things down. We'll talk about, all the resources you have to work with, brokers, get that set up, get the software installed, and get you ready for trading with us every morning as a new student. I'll tell you right now, you're going to love it. We had a fantastic, one of the best months of March of my career, and we're going into what could potentially be a very, very good month of April. Don't be afraid to use that live chat. If you want to chat there in the live chat, drop me some questions in the comment section below, and get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Rest up. Got a big national championship basketball game, right? Men's Final Four on tonight. Who you got? Who you got? I'll tell you, it's gonna be tough to beat the Jayhawks, tough to beat Kansas, but we will see. I'll be rooting for both teams. Always rooting for a good game. All right, guys, get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Keep in touch. Call the office if you guys have any questions. Get registered, and I'll see you tomorrow morning in the trade room, bright and early. If not, we'll see you back here, same time, same place tomorrow night on the next edition of our nightly newsletter. That's all from me. My name is Joseph. Be well out there. Be nice to each other, will you? And be here next time. Adios, amigos. Bye-bye for now.